Al Fagundes of Fagundes Plumbing is the son of Portuguese immigrants.
When my dad immigrated here with my three sisters and my mother, then I came along and my brother came along. My brother obviously is older than me. But at one point when I was 13 years old, about 12, 13, I graduated 8th grade and I moved back to Portugal for about 4 years.
Moving back to Portugal on his own at age 13 taught Al a second to none work ethic and appreciation for building your own business. Listen in. Hey, thanks for joining us. Longtime East Coast plumber. Tell me how you got into this. Is this like a first generation, second generation thing? Did you acquire? It's named after you, so I can't imagine that you acquired it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Al Fagundes with Fagundes Plumbing and Heating. We started the business in 2003, and it is a first generation business. And what ended up happening was I went to go work with my brother because he became a plumber and he went to high school for it, the technical high school down the street here. And I fell in love with it. I really liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. He paid me cash. So that was like, right after that was just like, oh, this is, we can make some
statute of limitations is gone on that. So now it's fine.
Yeah. So it's like, we can make some good money at this, I guess, you know? So then I ended up going to trade school at Greater Lowell Technical High School, and I took that up as my trade. So it's been 20 years.
Were you born
21 years in business?
Right where you're...
Yeah, Lowell, Massachusetts. We're just outside of it right now. We're in Kingsborough, Massachusetts, but just outside of Lowell, Massachusetts.
So you're in Lowell growing up. Your brother is a plumber. So when you say you started with him, how old are you at that point?
Well, I started doing some side work with him, and at that point, I think I was about 16.
So you're still in high school?
Yeah, well, I have a little history where I resided in the U.S. and my parents were immigrants from Portugal, from actually islands off the mainland of Portugal, and they immigrated here in the 1970s. My dad used to come here to the U.S. and work on a work visa, actually milking cows for Cumberland Farms back in the day. I don't know if you know Cumberland Farms. They're a large gas station chain, and back in the day, they used to actually have a milk production, and they used to have a farm. And my dad used to come here, and he used to milk cows for Cumberland Farms.
And so, were you guys back in Portugal then, or you came with him?
Well, my three sisters were born there, and then when my dad immigrated here with my three sisters and my mother, then I came along and my brother came along. My brother obviously is older than me. But at one point when I was 13 years old, about 12, 13, I graduated 8th grade and I moved back to Portugal for about 4 years. And then I came back because I had, our siblings were split. We had some that were married that were living here, some that were already in, some that were living in Portugal. So I came back and I went back to high school. So I went to school there, and then I came back and I went to school here.
So you finished high school in the United States. What made you go back to Portugal? You just did you miss something?
No, I finished elementary school in the U.S. and then my parents moved back, and then I moved back by myself to the U.S.
That's a lot of moving around. So you moved back to the U.S. and you're young, and it sounds like you've already got a lot of real world experience under your belt at that point, which is probably why you weren't afraid to jump in and start plumbing when you're in your teens.
It was a good experience for me, actually, to move away and move abroad. I learned a lot of stuff. I learned I learned different culture, right? Different things. I learned, what I used to have. I didn't have the luxury of having anymore. There was just certain things that were missing. I learned how to live without it and have a great little life for myself.
I 100% agree with you on that. I spent 4 years in the military from 1990 to 94, and I was what was called forward deployed. So I was always overseas on a ship, stopping in different places. And it just makes you appreciate, to your point, things you didn't have, things you earned, things you didn't earn, what other people have had to go through. In fact, one of my best friends on the ship was from Portugal. So when you said Portugal, I thought that was interesting. His name was Cabacini. Cabacina was actually his last name, but we called him Cabacini. But I'm digressing. So I can relate to what you're saying. You come back to the United States, you're working with your brother, you're a teenager. Did you ever have ambitions to do anything else, or was it always just kind of like you fell into your niche right off the bat?
Yeah, I kind of fell into the niche. I mean, we kind of follow the family footsteps. All my brothers and sisters had gone to that technical high school. And naturally, I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to go to the technical high school. I originally had thought of carpentry or even becoming a chef at one time.
What year is this when you're going to the technical high school?
1997.
I feel like a technical high school in 97 was way ahead of its time.
Yep. It was a great experience for me. The plumbing department at the Greater Lowell Technical High School was just awesome. Had great teachers, it had great fundamentals.
Does that school still exist?
It does. It's actually our neighbor. I somehow, out of the 20 years of business that I've been in business, we ended up buying a piece of property right beside the high school I went to.
That has to be advantageous to you to some degree, though, because in my opinion, the trades are number one, they're hard to hire for. And up until recently, that's why I said in 97 for there to be a trades high school. The trades just recently, in my opinion, the past 5 or so years, it became obvious to people like this is a great career path, especially plumbing and HVAC and things like that. Back in the day, it was always like forced upon you that you had to go to college. And now people don't have that same mentality. But for you to be located right next to this high school, I would think would be an advantage to you because you can grab these kids and get them employed right away.
Yeah, and they see our sign. They're driving up and down the street. The buses pass us. Our sign is out there on the main road as they're coming by. There's a lot of kids from the high school. Obviously, we can't hire all of them, but I will have to say we get our fair share of applicants through the door that way.
Well, let's go back to 2003 because you weren't hiring in 2003. Is this just you, or are you still with your brother?
Oh, 2003 is just me. I was actually working for another company for about a few different companies for about 5 to 6 years. And I decided to go out on my own. I had a friend of mine that give me an opportunity. He says, hey, you can come become a subcontractor for me. And I got plenty of work. I says, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I don't have a family. I don't have to worry about insurance right now. You're young. I'm young, I'm like, okay, I'll try that. I went to work for him for about 5 days, and I got my first own job, plumbing job. It was a plumbing remodel in Lowell. And then after that, I was never able to work with him because I got so busy right after that.
I mean, and is that still kind of how you, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So you ended up getting some work of your own. Is this still like 2003, 2004?
2003. Yep. October 1st of 2003 is when I went into business.
So that's the first time you put your name on the side of a van, so to speak.
Yeah, and in Massachusetts, that has to do with your licensing. So if you're a journeyman plumber in the state of Massachusetts, you have to name it after your first and last name. It's a requirement.
Huh. I did not know that.
You have to be a master plumber in order to do a, 1 hour or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
A more of a business focused name. So then it just stuck. And then I rebranded the logo, but I never really rebranded the name. So
why would you? Because at some point I would think you earned some respect with that name, obviously.
We have, but you get information from all different sources, right? The media, it's like you're getting sources from this social media post and that social media post. Oh, your name recognition might not work anymore. It's not catchy. You can't really build a slogan with it, But what we ended up doing, we just rebranded. We ended up rewrapping our trucks, try to stick out a little bit more than the regular white van with a logo on it. So we rebranded our look, and that seemed to have worked for us in keeping the name.
Let's go backward again. You're working by yourself. You've got your own company at this point. I assume you're profitable right off the bat. How quickly do you grow to have to looking at hiring?
Did you ever hear of the E-Myth book?
No.
So read the E-Myth, and in the E-Myth, It's basically, that's my story. You progress forward, you're working in the business, getting burnt out, you start hiring other people. Next thing you know, it's not really working out that great. You start to degress, right? And you start to go back to you and maybe somebody else in the truck. And that's what I ended up happening to me. In that middle of that 2006 era, I probably had 5 people working for me at one time. Degressed prior to the economy bust in 2008, and then made it through there. And then in 2011, I says, I'm either going to shut this down or going to go work for somebody else, or I'm going to figure out how I can employ people and build this. And I hired a consultant out of Chelmsford, Massachusetts at the time. And then I grew the business from there. Every year we kind of just kept adding to revenue and adding employees. And that's where.
So this is like 2011, 2012.
Yep.
If you're comfortable sharing it, what kind of revenue were you doing prior to making the decision to hire a consultant and grow the business?
I was doing 500,000, just slightly under.
Okay. And then you're like, either this is going to be a business or I might as well just go get a job, because I feel like I'm basically just employing myself now with all the hassle of having to schedule and answer phones and all of this. So you made a concerted effort to turn it into a business.
Yeah. At 500,000 10 years ago, a lot of people would say, wow, that's a lot of money. Right. But what people don't realize is businesses don't shut down just because it got to 4 o'clock.
Well, and that's your gross too. I mean, all your business expenses are coming out of that.
When you're a business owner, you're on the clock 24/7. You don't have to be on call. You're constantly on the clock 24/7.
Right.
You can get a call at any time. An issue can happen at any time. You can have an issue with an employee or a customer. So you're never really at rest.
Well, talk me through how the strategy changes come 2011 then. You hire this consultant, you decide we're going to be a business. What does the consultant tell you to do? How do things change?
Tells you to get out of your own way.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to, right? Mindset. First, you got to overcome the mindset of, hiring somebody in the field, as long as you're keeping them busy, that they're earning for their pay, right? And earning for you. The biggest overcome for a lot of people is hiring somebody for the office. How does that person help me financially? And that was probably the biggest obstacle. Once I was able to overcome that obstacle, then the pieces started to come together.
Because in your head, you're thinking, this is just another expense for me, and I can answer the phone and send out bills. I can do that in my spare time, which you just said didn't exist.
And in 2025 that we're in now, I still do that. There's sometimes I go, well, I can do that marketing, and I could send that out, and I can go out and run a sales call. It gets to a point where you're like, reality check. I can, but I really can't.
Well, and there's reasons you do that. You grow the business in 2011, or decide to start to grow the business in 2011. How quickly do things take off once you realize you have to get out of your own way?
I would say in about 2017, I think my business kind of grew a little slower than everybody else's, but I hear some great stories where people become, they hit a 7 million in a couple of years, right? But I would say in 2017, I really started getting out of my own way, started to hire people for different aspects of the business internally.
How many people do you have then in 2017 when it starts to grow?
At that point, and roughly about, I probably had roughly about 15, 16 employers.
Okay.
And right up to the pandemic, we probably had about 30-ish employees.
And then did the pandemic kind of slap you upside the head a little bit?
It did. And then we kind of came down in numbers, and we kind of creeped back up in numbers. And then I kind of came down in numbers, but never losing revenue.
So where are you sitting at presently?
Revenue wise, we're sitting at, we'll finish off the year, hope about 8 million.
And how many people is that?
That is 26 people.
What are the strategies in your area for growth? Is it like everywhere else where it's got to be a little bit of everything? Is it a little bit of social marketing, a little bit of Google marketing, a little bit of word of mouth, billboards? How are you growing the business in 2025?
I have changed my strategy. right after 2020, I started doing a lot more digital, and I got away from your cause marketing, your local stuff, because I thought that was a way to grow. And it was. But then we all hit a wall, I think, in the end of 23 to 24, where why is Google search down? Why am I not getting the leads I used to get? What's going on here? And the more I dove into it, I decided that, I'm not doing a really good all around marketing effort anymore. So we changed our strategy this year. A lot more postcards going out to new and existing customers consistently. Valve tags, making sure we're being consistent with valve tags. Make sure we're being 100% consistent with review capturing. We went from doing 5 to 6 reviews a month to doing 5 to 6 reviews a day.
Are you using software for that?
We do. We use 2 different softwares. One is Service Titan that just sends out, an end of dispatch type of conversation to the customer from the technician, thanking them for allowing them to be in the house. And then I have another system that does a follow-up, and consistently will do follow-ups.
So you decide to take all of your eggs out of the digital basket per se and go back to some more traditional methods, which would be even just a postcard, the mail. I would submit that part of the, I don't want to say problem, but you probably realize you're spending more and more and more money on this digital advertising and getting less and less return. I know some plumbing companies spending 6 figures a month out in California trying to maintain digital leads. I would imagine that, did you recognize that as like, this isn't my best ROI anymore?
We had some stuff like Google search, right? Wasn't a great ROI. And one thing that I started doing was diving into other platforms and just searching like a customer, right? You ask Siri on an iPhone to search you a plumber near you. She pulls her information from Yelp, and every plumber hates Yelp, right? But that's where she's sourcing her info from. She's not going to Google to get that information. She's searching Yelp. So how many of your customers?
You just taught me that.
Yeah. How many of your customers are going, "Hey Siri, find me a plumber near me," and boom, you're like, "Why am I not getting the calls?" Oh, there she goes. So,
well, let's talk a little bit more about, were you always like, you're pretty diversified now. You talked about that you were, I don't want to say just a plumber, but you were just plumbing. Now you're HVAC, and now you're doing drain cleaning. When did you introduce those ancillary services into the mix? Right off the bat?
No, HVAC, we introduced that in about 2011. We introduced the HVAC portion of it. It was more new construction, ducted systems. Eventually, as I got into like 2017, 2016, I shied away from like almost all my new construction and just started doing more homeowner to homeowner services. And that's presently what we do now. We do very, very little any remodeling. It's mostly homeowner direct services.
What is the percentage breakdown on like drain cleaning versus plumbing versus HVAC as far as your...
Drain cleaning is really new. Drain cleaning is only for us is only a little about a month and a half old. So it was something that was very much in need, and we took a long time to bring that upon. And it was something that I should have pulled the trigger on years ago, building that book of business. We were giving it away, literally just giving it to our competitor down the street that didn't do plumbing, but that's all they did were drain services, which was fine. It worked out. But at some point it was like, I really should be able to facilitate my customer a lot better by be able to provide the service.
Yeah, integrating it into one company, which leads to my next question. When I was researching your company, the infrastructure where you live is the oldest infrastructure in the United States. And drain cleaning, again, you're probably running into a lot of collapsed pipes, a lot of roots, things like that. Is there like a relining in your crystal ball or anything like that?
Yeah, and that's probably going to have to come sooner than later, that we've come to find out. At first, it was more to be a complement to our plumbing services, being able to do a main drain clear, to do a snaking, to be able to locate some piping or use our locator or camera inspection. And we're coming to find out real fast that lining service is probably going to need to come sooner than later.
Yeah. Again, I know on that especially East Coast, it's old pipes. You, speaking of a crystal ball and like what you're doing, where do you see this company going over the next 5-10 years? Where do you want it to go?
So we had a plan to get this to $15 million home service company, and to add the electrical home service part to our business as well, because we work with electricians 2-3 times a week. We have two to three great contractors that we work with constantly. I'd like to bring that in-house. Again, there is just a lot of home service business here to be had that we could complement the rest of our other business by having the electrical in-house.
So that's the long-term goal, is to just, again, keep diversifying and building your own revenue. What is your exit strategy for the business? Are you building this business for acquisition, or are you building it for succession?
At this point, it's for succession. I have 2 small little boys. I think by the time they're around their 10 years of age, I should have an idea of maybe where their head is at, or at least try to guess, right? So at this point, it's for transitioning to my kids.
As you continue to move forward and you're building this business in your head to keep, looking back, what was the most important thing you learned building this business?
Juggling personalities. Oh, I have to kind of readjust myself. Yeah. Learning how to talk to people different ways, right? Learning different personalities. Not everybody meshes with everybody. Deep dive into your own personal aspects. It's more about the people side of the business is the hardest piece about growing.
Learn more about Al Fagundes Plumbing at afphpro.com. That's afphpro.com. Please be sure to like and subscribe to keep more of this great content coming.